Hello
Is it working for
again.
you?
Yeah, it's working.
This is your intro?
No. We're cold open. We're a cold open podcast, John.
Yeah, it's true.
So
It's true.
so you're saying put a 10 on plus 15,000. The cocaine in the White House is Joe Biden's.
Well, look, do I think Joe Biden's? It might be Joe Biden's from last administration he worked there. Although I don't.
Do you not think
Coke,
people are cleaning this White House?
Well, I don't think Coke would have survived in the Trump White House either. I got a feeling there's a lot of cokeheads there.
Oh yeah, dude. He was taking British Sudafed. Yeah, because it has whatchamacallit in it.
Ivermectin.
Phenylephrine, I think.
Oh, okay.
Which
Not
we
ivermectin.
don't have. But the remember the Taco Bowl, the Cinco de Mayo Taco Bowl scene, where he
Yeah.
was like holding the taco bowl like this.
Yeah.
In the drawer, you could literally see it. It was like he had it in there.
Damn. Still got
Yeah.
COVID. It's pretty fucked.
It doesn't help you not get COVID, but
Who's to say? Who's to say?
it helps you get fucking off your ass.
Someone could jump on Joe Rogan tomorrow and say it helps get rid of COVID, and it would be in the newspaper. So who's to say?
I'd have 16 texts from a couple of my friends being like, "Is this true?" And I'd have to be like, "No, it's not true.
Yeah.
No, it's not true."
I love that the health system in this country is so bad that we're yearning for someone to go on a podcast and tell us something cures COVID. We're just fucking so ready for it.
I have like so many jokes in my head, but they're all inappropriate.
I know, and there's Naya Tucker around to rein us back in right now. It's really
I know,
bad.
so I can't go down that road or I'll never come back.
All right, let's get started then.
The NAFTA podcast.
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
Welcome back, everybody, to the NAFTA podcast. John, I know we already had one of these, and somebody had technical difficulties. Not me this time.
It's a
What-
tough look for the captain of the pod.
Yeah, what episode are we on? I'm just gonna ask the same questions I did before and pretend like
And
we didn't.
I'm gonna give you the same answer. I think it's 160 something. I'm not 100% sure. We took the week off. That's all I know. And again, no offense to all of our rabid listeners, but it's kind of nice to have a week off.
Yeah, I think you guys probably enjoyed us not talking to you for a week. It was.
Yeah.
Oh, you did one by yourself, so I actually took 2 weeks off.
Yeah. So you had 2 weeks off. The Tuckers, we give pretty much the summer off to. I don't know.
We have no obligation right now.
Yeah, they work really hard during the season. I don't feel the need to make them to tear them away from the beach. They're beach going folk, you know. Michael and
Yeah.
I not so much. Michael, are you a beach goer actually?
I like the beach. I don't like the ocean.
Interesting. Okay. Like I feel bad tearing them away. They are surely water-based mammals, those two. Like they grew up on the water. They go to clubs that are on the beach type shit. So it's kind of like telling a child Santa Claus isn't real to make them have to do a podcast during the summer because I know this is where they thrive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
so
100%.
that's why I don't really make them do anything for the most part.
But yeah, for sure. But while the Tuckers are not doing anything, John and I are here. We're going to talk to you about the center of the soccer world right now, the United States of America, because this is a U.S. podcast. We got the Gold
True.
Cup.
True, and now I can redeem myself because I made a little bit of a blunder before we got cut off. It actually
Always protect you. We're always protecting your ass.
You got to protect the brand. It actually is the
guess.
center of the universe because you got Copa America coming up. The Club World Cup will be here as well. The World Cup obviously is coming up in 26. I don't have the other thing. Is there another thing?
The Women's World Cup.
Oh no, that's in New Zealand. in Australia.
Oh, I thought it was in the U.S.
Nah,
Oh no, was it?
The Women's World Cup goes to an English-speaking country, and you just assume it's the U.S.?
No. There's some women's tournament that's in the U.S.
Could be the She Believes Cup that usually plays here.
The Olympics, the Women's Olympics, or no, the men's Olympics are coming, and they play soccer in it.
These are unfounded rumors.
Hold on. I'll figure it out.
Do-
Because there's like
do we really-
5 things.
Do we really have the Olympics coming here next? I didn't even realize that. That can't be true.
I think
right?
so.
Chicago? Where's it going? Like, I feel like
I
a
don't-
big Olympic head, and I don't even know this.
I thought it was. I thought it was like at least 4 things.
Nah, bro.
We have Copa. We have the Gold Cup, Copa America,
Club
UEFA World Cup, Club World Cup, World Cup. There's. I swear there was either a women's one or something else.
I just think that the women's team is dope as hell, and shout out to the NWSL because they're
You're
pulling
so right.
they're pulling bigger numbers than I think anyone was expecting. Also, shout out to the WNBA. The Liberty are pretty sick. Been trying to go to a Liberty game. Me and Ian are gonna go at some point. And then third of all, like just shout out to women. Women's Month's over, but you know, tell a woman in your life thanks, bro.
We gave them their month.
Yeah, exactly. Gave them their
It's my favorite. This is my favorite thing. Why do we have to have a whole month for them? Fuck are you talking about, dumbass?
So the United States is the center of the soccering universe right now, and right now the Gold Cup's going on.
Hell yeah, dude. It's good that we're on the pod because in typical NAFTA football podcast fashion, we did a little table.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
Nick got one right because he didn't do any of it. So
Yes.
we'll just kind of cancel him out of this. We won't
He got
hold that against him.
He got the gimme. It was interesting. Nick was the most active Tucker in our chat when we were setting this thing up, and then just neglected to fill out anything. Dylan, the silent champion that he is, the silent participant that he is, filled everything out. He's good to go. We got game predictions. We got table predictions. Dylan made it. Nick, no, not so much. Too busy being engaged, though. So shout out to Nick, actually.
Yeah, he was the equivalent of like be there as opposed to like do all the little shit. Like he just wanted to exist.
Yeah, Nick loves chatter, right? Like Nick loves being in the mix. When it comes to a prediction, maybe Nick misses here or there, but actually, big shout out to Caroline and him. You know, 2 lovebirds finally coming together and getting engaged. So, golf claps around for those 2. Silent claps. You can see it on the video version of the pod, but you know we're out here clapping.
Yeah, we're clapping. We're always clapping.
Michael, I had a chance actually to go to a Gold Cup game. 2 of them.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. So you got to see Costa Rica, I know.
Yep.
And you also got to see Panama.
So first game was Panama Martinique. Second game was El Salvador Costa Rica. Have been to a few NYCFC games. Been to 1 Red Bull game. Not very many fans back then. I actually saw the year that Atlanta United won the MLS Cup. I saw their entire run-up because they used to do 2 legs. So there'd be 1 leg in Atlanta, 1 leg in New York, 1 leg in Atlanta, 1 leg in New York. So they beat the New York teams back-to-back. I will say this, the attendance during those playoff games, not the greatest. I know that the MLS has come up a bit since then. So I was kind of expecting not the highest turnout in the world. Boy, was I wrong. At least for the second game, for sure. It was dope, though. I mean, I got off the PATH train from New York out to Jersey and was just met with tailgating. That looked insane. Was incredible.
I saw that.
Yeah, just a bunch of huge trucks with, like, systems in the back just blaring any type of Latin hip-hop, Latin pop, Latin music that you can think of. Some of the best smells I've ever smelled in the world. Just full meats on grills, side dishes that looked amazing, and in all honesty, just a lot of pageantry, a lot of people out there trying to support their home nation while they are kicking it here in the U.S., you know? It was dope.
Um, how many people? I feel like this is gonna be a lot, but how many people from do you think were like New Yorkers, New Jersey, that are like they live there, that were just supporters of like Costa Rica and Panama, as opposed to people who like came from Costa Rica and Panama?
So you want to know how many whites there were?
Well, no, they don't have to be white, John. They could have just
I
moved
know.
like in the past couple of years.
Are you asking how many of me there were that were just there for shits and gigs, or how many people are like immigrated from those countries?
I want to know how many people at these games were like, we came to see Panama play in the Gold Cup from Panama,
So I'll break
as
it down
opposed to
this
like,
way.
oh, Panama's coming. I don't know what it Panamanian.
Panamanian, yeah. I'll
Okay.
break it down this way. God bless Martinique. Naya fan there. Not one single Martinique fan that I got to see there. They even scored in the death of the first game against Panama to claw it back 2-1. I don't think I heard a rumble, not even a little cheer. So zero Martinique fans for the most part. I will say I think the Panamanians, most of them stayed tailgating, because I feel like
Uh-huh.
I rolled up to the stadium through the tailgate, and I was like, oh shit, there's a decent amount of Panamanian people here. And then I did record. They did a little like dance number in the front with some pomp and circumstance and some costume, which was pretty dope. But when we got in that first game, we were not even at 25% capacity. I don't want to say, maybe 25 to 30, and it was all Panama people. And then once the first game was getting towards the end, the
Mhm.
Costa Ricans and the El Salvadorian people started filing in, and it started filling up. Costa Rica was probably second place with the amount of people. The attendance, they said, for that second game was like 22-8, which was nuts. Like, for international game, I feel like. I don't think they expected that. 22-8. I will say this. Of the 22-8, 15,000 were El Salvadorian. Like, it was
Really?
it was a madhouse. And I've only been to one other international game, and it was when I lived in DC, and I was taking the metro out to FedEx Field. It's like where the Commanders play. And I remember getting into this car and it just being a fiesta, for lack of a better word. It was a party.
Jesus.
Well, that's not bad. It was a fiesta. All El Salvador.
It's only bad if you make
fans.
that face after you say it.
No. It was a great time. And then I remember getting to the stadium, and it was El Salvador versus Spain, and it was the year after Spain won the World Cup, and El Salvador was just rocking. Like, they were all El Salvadorian fans, and it was insane. Lost 2-0, but needless to say,
They tried.
It's El Salvador 1, Costa Rica 2, Panama 3, Martinique. They're just happy to be there. So,
This is also a question that has haunted me for a long, long time. So, like, Estados Unidos is United States in Spanish. So, do people from El Salvador call it El Salvador? Because isn't that like the Salvador?
So I was sitting there in the stands too, and it was so funny. I got there first game, obviously. I watched both. The stadium's empty. I'm sitting in my seat, and then my entire section, there's no one there. All of a sudden, in my row, people sat right next to me to the left and then right next to me to the right. So my row was filled up, and no one else was there. But it was great. I had this awesome Panamanian dude next to me who was really into it, like just yelling all types of obscenities that I could not translate because I'm an idiot and only speak one language. And then this El Salvadorian family sat next to me too. I had the same thought. I was like, it's just Salvador then, but it is the Salvador, I guess, because all of their signs, they had bandanas on, they had like painted up. It looked like a college football game. It felt like a college football game. All of their signs said El Salvador. So it has to just be, and I know that we're idiots. We could literally look this up instead of sounding like two white morons on a podcast, but I think
But
it is.
I think
the
that's
El Salvador.
I think that's the charm though, because we're vulnerable. We're letting ourselves be vulnerable because I don't know what it is.
I mean, I could call up Ramiro right now and he would tell me the answer. Just because he is Cuban, grew up in Honduras, and then immigrated here. And we were talking about the experience there. He was supposed to go with me, but works at Amazon, so working those long hours.
Fuck Jeff.
Yeah, Bezos. He got Bezos fucked. Anyway, I could ask him. I guess it is right. Like, it's kind of fun to see. Like, I think it is El Salvador across the board.
I've never heard literally anybody else, even people who I know are Spanish speaking, not call it El Salvador.
Yeah, I think it is.
But
El
then
Salvador.
somebody told me like, that's like what people from the U.S. call it, and I'm like, okay, what do people from El Salvador call it? And they're like,
But we call ourselves the United States of America. It's literally them just saying the Salvador.
yeah, I don't disagree, but we're also calling them the Salvador. That's what I'm saying. Like, do they call it El Salvador? And like, what would it be translated for us? Like, would we be like, oh, it's the Salvador? But we call it El Salvador too.
I know at least one person is listening to this podcast right now, saying to themselves, "These are the two stupidest human beings ever to purchase equipment to record themselves." And shout out to you.
Or this is the dumbest fucking conversation. Nobody cares, which also true.
For sure. Look, the last thing I want to say about it was, I think a lot of times, good international football and good like club football crowds, the only comparison you can make is to college football here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Brother, there are so many college football games, Ohio State games included, that I've been to, that the crowd at the Ohio State game could only dream to be as passionate and to be as loud and to be as into the game as the fans at this Gold Cup game were. It was a different feeling. It was a different vibe. Dare I say, in our good friend Dylan Tucker's words, it was electric. It was a good time. So I highly recommend it. If you can go to the semifinals, quarterfinals, whatever, people should do it.
I've been to the last two Ohio State games I've been to. Not the last one, the one before that was when they played Indiana. I was there for literally 1.5 quarters.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to go home and just get fucked up. Like, this is pointless. And then the other one I was at was the Georgia game in Atlanta.
We don't talk about
and
that.
that was crazy. That was like, I could not have, there was not a single other thought in my head than that game.
Yeah. So that's a different beast. I mean, that's a national semifinal game. Whereas this was just...
Yeah, well, exactly. Like, this is, you're one of 4 teams left playing. This is like a group stage game.
I was going to say, this is just the second game in Group C of the Gold Cup. Speaking of, let's give the folks a breakdown of the groups, and then we'll dive into the U.S. games. U.S. was in Group A. They had Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and St. Kitts and Nevis. That's how the group ended. The U.S. had 7 points with a 12-goal differential. Most of those a Jesus Ferreira double hattie that we'll talk about. Jamaica finished second with 7 points as well. Trinidad and Tobago in third with 3. St. Kitts and Nevis 0 for their point total. Group B was Mexico.
0.
A big old nil. Group B finished Mexico in first, Qatar in second, surprisingly, Honduras in third, and then Haiti in fourth. Group C, the one that I got to go see the games, Panama in first, Costa Rica sneaking it out in the last day for second. Martinique finished third, El Salvador in fourth, and then Group D was Guatemala first, Canada not performing very well in second, Guadeloupe in third, and Cuba finishing fourth there. So the teams moving on, U.S. and Jamaica, Mexico, Qatar, Panama, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Canada, and how those games will shape out in the knockouts. You got Guatemala and Jamaica on one side of the bracket with Mexico and Costa Rica. On our side of the bracket, the U.S. is going to play Canada, and then we will play the winner of Panama, Qatar. Very similar to the last Gold Cup that we won. Played Qatar in the second round before we got to the finals. We'll see if that happens as well. Obviously, the U.S. won their group, so let's break down the games and give you our thoughts. Yeah.
Can
go
I
ahead.
interject real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna save everybody here. We don't need to talk about these games individually.
No, it's a collective.
Okay.
I'm giving you results first, and we're gonna go kind of over.
We can just talk about everything. Because
Yes,
there's
that
one
is-
thing I want to talk about for sure.
That's fine. Let's just. I want to give them at the very least who showed up, who played really really well. The first game was the U.S. Jamaica. First things first. This was a stacked Jamaican team. This is the best Jamaican team they've probably fielded in a long time. They took the lead in the 13th minute on a Damian Lowe goal. Leon Bailey missed the pen in the 29th. They could have went up 2-0. And then Brandon Vasquez for the U.S. got one back for the tie in the 88th minute. We tied that one for the first game of the group. St. Kitts and Nevis, we won 6-0. It was the Jesus Ferreira show for the first time. I'm going to butcher this dude's name. You might be able to save me here, but the Milojevic, is that how you say it? Milojevic?
Hold on, I gotta look at the pronunciation.
Anyway, he got the first
Or
goal.
I gotta
in
look
the
at
12th.
the name.
Yeah, first goal in the 12th. 2 minutes later, Brian Reynolds in the 14th. 2 minutes later, Jesus Ferreira in the 16th. Jesus Ferreira got one again in the 25th. We hit halftime. He got his hat trick in the 50th. And then the last goal was Milojevic again in the 79th, a 6-0 win. And then 6-0 again against Trinidad and Tobago, kind of avenging some of those demons from way back when. Herrera had a first half hat trick in this one, 14th, 38th, and 48th minute for the U.S. Second half was Cade Caldwell. Good to see him on the score sheet. Busio in the 79th, and then Brandon Vasquez with the first goal and the last goal in the group for the Red, White, and Blue in the 90th minute +4. So 2 wins, 1 draw, 2 6-0 wins. We move on top of the group. Michael, give me your thoughts. What do you want to jump into? What do you want to talk about these results?
So I need first some clarification. Are we like the only team that is playing like a second team in this?
So it's a mix. There's like I said, the Jamaican team that they put out, I think, is one of the strongest teams they can. They got Mikel Antonio, they got Leon Bailey, they got Damari Gray, who just switched from English to Jamaican. They also have your boy, Decordova. Jeez, why can't I speak? Bobby Decordova.
Decordova Reed?
Yeah, jeez. Neither one of us.
De Cordova. There we go.
De Cordova, yeah. Reed. And, I mean, Blake's still in goal for them. So they have a pretty solid squad. I think that the big guns at Canada aren't there. If I was looking at the lineups correctly, Alfonso and Jonathan David are still out with that group. But with the Mexican side, they still have some of those guys that were playing in that semifinal against the U.S. And I think they're in a transition anyway. I mean, I think they're trying to figure out how do we get rid of some of these older players so some of the younger players can play, and are any of these younger players actually good enough to be there? So, I mean, they're still in transition. They lost 1-0 to Qatar to end their group, still won their group, but that let Qatar kind of move on to the knockout round. So they're not sitting as pretty as they want to be as well. But yes, I think the U.S. has the most B and C players playing out of the big 4 that we just mentioned. And then Costa Rica traditionally or historically is one of the top 4 or 5 teams. And in all honesty, they haven't looked good. And I was pulling for them, obviously, but they haven't looked very, very good at all.
Well, so I'm thinking we should definitely beat. I mean, if Canada's playing their backups too, I actually think some of these dudes are pretty good. Like, there's an argument for Gianluca Busio, I think is pretty good. We got Turner back there, obviously, who's the first choice. Robinson's back there, who's in the mix at center back. And then you got younger, talented guys that just kind of know how to play and shit like that. So I think that they could easily win, especially if you're talking about Mexico, the Mexico side being more of the strong players, but I mean losing to Qatar, you can beat them. So I think we should. I don't think the fact that we're playing the backups or anything should temper our expectations that much.
Yeah, where you're looking at this U.S. team and you're like, hey, this is definitely the B team or the C team at times, is the attack in the midfield. I think that a lot of the positions in the back four are somewhat still up for grabs-ish, like the second string of the first team maybe, where I think if someone comes out and just plays out of their mind, they can at least be in contention for that back four spot or a few of those back four spots. But, put it this way, James Sands isn't playing in the World Cup. I don't think Christian Roldan is going to be playing in the World Cup, and they're getting significant minutes for us here in the Gold Cup itself. So,
All right.
like
So, with that being said, I still think that they can they could do something. They can obviously win this. I
for sure.
love the idea. Love the idea of like letting these guys get caps, get minutes, get games and stuff like that. We got to talk about I don't know how to describe him other than like he's like a cyst on the back of the United States.
Whomst is this?
Alexi Lalas.
I mean, he's a cyst on the back of the culture and the country that is the United States. It's not just the U.S. men's national team.
I think Jesus Ferreira is doing a great job. I think he is doing absolutely everything he can with the opportunity that he is given. I'm watching these games, dude. I could have, and I know I'm exaggerating.
Hyperbole.
But the way that that midfield and defense of Trinidad and Tobago was set up, I could have ran through them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like, it is not. He's scoring. You still have to put the ball in the net. I understand that, but to say like he's as good as Balogun or he's as good as any of those other guys is insane, man. And I'm not saying he couldn't be. Like, he still could, reach some potential that is we haven't seen yet. Like, I'm not saying that he's like we should just only play him in games that don't matter. But if you're seeing him hit a hat trick against Trinidad and Tobago and St. Kitts and Nevis or whatever, you can't base your decision off that.
No, I mean, look, I got a game tonight. Shout out to FC Drogba. I hate the name. I hate the name. I'm wearing the shirt, but that's my team name. Shout out to Evan, who now lives out in LA, but he put the team together. Big Chelsea guy. I have a game tonight. No one's gonna have a hat trick tonight. I promise you. No one will. It's not easy to get a hat trick. It's super not easy to get a double hat trick in back-to-back games at any level, no matter what. But I have eyes, and I've played soccer enough and have watched a lot of it to be like, hey, if I'm going to say that one player may be a little bit better than the other, I can still say that. Now, I think this is incredible that Ferreira is playing as well as he is. There's no downside to this, I don't think. There's no downside to this guy getting 2 hat tricks because you want someone to be there pushing your top 2, your Pepe and your Balogun. You want him to make a tough decision. The only downside, I think, is I don't know how great Berhalter is at making tough decisions. That's another pod for another time. But, like, dude, shout out to him. Like, this is amazing for this guy. At the very least, maybe he's going to get picked up and have a chance to play at the age of 22 overseas if that's what his goal is. Maybe he's going to be able to move on to better soccer, and then he's going to be an asset for us somewhere else. Like, but I don't think that the performances that happen in this Gold Cup, for the most part, are going to lead to starting positions at the World Cup for anyone. I think these performances at Gold Cup are going to lead to people having a spot maybe on that team. If anyone watched Balogun play against Mexico and Canada, I said it on the solo pod I did. With all respect to Dempsey, with all respect to Landon Donovan, with all respect to whomever you want to say, I personally, in my 34 years of living, watching U.S. soccer, have never seen someone wear that jersey and know how to move like Balogun does. And I'm not talking like making moves. I'm talking movement within the shape, movement within the front line, movement behind center backs, movement behind left and right backs, trying to get them in a space where they can score a goal. We've never had that. I don't think. Period.
I don't like Dempsey or Donovan, so I'm with you. I think. But I agree. I think. I don't know, man. It's the same shit I hate with like fucking. And I know this is going to be an insane comparison, so just stick with me for a second. It's the shit I hate with like Saka. Like the kid is playing out of his mind. He's doing amazing. He looks like when Arsenal was like winning, leading the league and stuff, he looked like the best player in the league. Why are you trying to make it? You're trying to like force all this shit on him already. He's the best winger. He's the best this. He's the best that. He's the best player since this guy. He's the best player since this guy. Listen, we can. I'm getting a little tired of like answering those questions or those type of questions just in general. Like, why are we already? Guy scores 1 hat trick. Just be fucking happy for him for a game. Like, say maybe he deserves more than maybe deserves to be on the roster. Let's do this incrementally. Let's not just immediately go to he should be the striker now.
Yeah.
For scoring a hat trick against Kitson Nevis.
I think scoring a goal against Canada, albeit them being bankrupt and not knowing if they're going to play any international games until the World Cup, but scoring against Canada, it has a bigger impact, and the way he scored against Canada has a bigger impact on the U.S. men's national team than a hat trick against St. Kitts and Nevis. And that's with all respect to Ferreira. Again, he's played amazing. I do also love a meme that I saw, which was Jack Sparrow on top of a crow's nest on a ship, and it says Jesus Ferreira trying to find his next Caribbean micronation to score a hat trick against. But like, there's no downside to this, and I don't think that anyone needs to be sitting here being like he needs to be the starter. I think if you ask Jesus Ferreira, he probably doesn't think that's the case either, and he's just excited to be able to compete and push the top 2 guys, which are, again, Balogun and Pepe, 4 spots in 2026. And that's all you can ask for.
So this basically what it's going to be is like, this makes him the 3rd choice over like Jordan Morris. And who's like Pulisic's boy that was brought to the World Cup that played up top?
Brought to the world.
His buddy, like the one guy that was like, I don't know if this is even true, but it was like this is like Pulisic's friend that is also on the team, but everyone's kind of like, why is he going?
I'm not gonna.
He's not even on the Gold Cup roster.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to get this for you, bro.
Whatever.
Yes, I think he's over Jordan Morris right now. Long story long.
I fucking hope so. It's like he's playing over him right now, so I mean, it puts him like, I think it puts him in competition more so with like Pepe than Balogun. I think Balogun's just the guy. Like, you don't make this big of a deal to not make him the guy.
So are you talking about an attacker? Because we had Roldan, we had Jordan Morris, and then we also had Haji Wright.
Haji Wright, that's who I'm thinking of.
Okay. Haji did get the goal against the Netherlands, so.
Yeah. We also should have scored like 10 goals against the Netherlands.
True. Yeah.
Also, like Haji Wright didn't play in the last tournament. He's not playing in the Gold Cup. Like, he has to play at some point if he's in the mix, right?
Yeah, I do think that it's interesting the depth they went with their like the pool, right? Like, I actually thought getting even more minutes for Pepe here would have been good. I don't know. I mean, maybe the quick turnaround from the Nations League to this is something that they want to think about, but yeah, I think that there are, oddly enough, some people actually left out now that I look back on it to be like, it would have been interesting to have them there.
Yeah. So, like Taylor Booth was at the Canada, like the final Canada game, and Zendejas was too. Trying to think who else. Like those, I mean, Zendejas is there now. I don't know if Booth is. I didn't look, but like Haji Wright's nowhere, so I don't know like what his deal was.
Nowhere to be found. I will say this. Let's wrap it up here, just because, like, again, or do you have any other questions about it? I guess is where I should have went.
I don't think so. I think, I don't know. I didn't know we were playing Canada until just now, so that'll be like That's like our semifinal kind of, because
Yeah.
even though that's the maybe the mix A-B squad, still better than Qatar. Like I think
Look,
Qatar getting through is crazy.
Insane. And to be honest, getting to see Panama with my own two eyes, IRL, there's two teams, honestly, that I think should be able to beat this U.S. team as it's constructed in the Gold Cup, and it's Jamaica and Mexico. And I think that's it. I mean, Canada will be a good game, but if we beat Canada, we should be rolling to the finals, because if you're playing Panama or Qatar, that needs to be a dub. And if Jamaica or Mexico either of them get upset, if any of those other teams, Costa Rica or Guatemala, make it to the finals, they just don't have the firepower to compete with the U.S. So let's put our next round predictions up right now. Guatemala, Jamaica. I think we're going to be the same
Jamaica.
on all these. Yeah, I got Jamaica. Mexico, Costa Rica, unfortunately.
I mean, they just did lose to Qatar.
Hey. I got my Los Ticos hat on right now. Let's go, baby.
You going Costa Rica?
I'm going Mexico.
Okay. I'll do this. I'll go Costa Rica.
Okay, just to be different. Love that. Panama, Qatar.
Panama.
Yeah, I think so too. I might go.
I don't think Qatar is good at all. I'm shocked
they're-
they even won a game.
They're terrible. They're real bad. They're big bad. I wanted to go Qatar for a minute there just to be different, like you did on the last one, but I'm not going to. Panama.
Don't sell yourself.
Yeah. And then U.S. Canada. You got to go Red
Going
Wing Blue.
US.
Yeah.
I think if it was the first choice Canada team, we'd be the underdogs.
For sure. I think if you have even one of the big guys, if Alfonso's there or if Jonathan David's there, you're looking at an uphill battle. I think the one guy that is still on that roster that hilariously kind of gives me some fits or kind of gives us some fits is not Junior Hoylett, who's been scoring the goals. It's that goofball Larrea. It's Laryea. He plays for Nottingham Forest. He's just fast, if I remember correctly, and he gets into weird positions, and that's just something they got to be conscious of. So it'll be fun. I love that I'm so much more bought into these CONCACAF games now. I'm more interested in them for sure.
I'm gonna find the thing that I was talking about. I'm sure ESPN posted some shit, which, my history with ESPN. It is very likely that they were wrong too. They gave me misinformation, but
For sure.
I will try to find it. I can post it on the socials. You guys are all following us on there. No big deal.
Exactly. Michael, I know that you also, before we leave, you wanted to chat transfers a little bit. I know that Liverpool's actually been pretty active. Give me your thoughts maybe on Liverpool first, and then any other transfers you want to chat through.
All right, so we got Alexis McAllister,
Yep, big
which is
pickup.
pretty big, 35 million,
Mm-hmm.
which is really cheap,
For sure.
Crazy.
For a World Cup winner.
and Premier League proven midfielder.
Yep. Totally agree.
We got Dominic Soboslai
Yep.
from.
I wanted to hear your pronunciation. I'm sure you practiced it.
he pronounced it in the videos I saw. But actually, it's one of those things where, because I don't know, I could not name you another Hungarian player, for sure. But just because I've seen so many names in other languages and stuff, I was like, SZ, it's probably just a sound. And I was able to be like, oh, it's Soboslai. It kind of looks like it now that I've seen stuff enough.
Yep.
That
Sure.
I was able to get it before he said anything. But he's very good midfielder. I would love to get one more guy at least. It looks like we're going for Kefren Turam, and now we're not. And it also looks like we were going to go for Lavia, and now I guess we're not, because we have now we're saying we have too many options in the midfield, which we really don't. Let's be honest. We have a lot of people who play midfield, but not a lot of options. But the thing I more so want to talk about, I got a couple signings, and I just want your opinion on them.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, Mason Mount to Manchester United.
Yeah. I'll give you knee-jerk cultural reference. Spider-Man meme. What's the difference?
Between who?
Well, the entire situation. Is he a game changer for Chelsea? Really? Not really. Is he going to be a game changer for Man United? Not really, I don't think. I think it was just like, I think it was literally Chelsea just being like, we gotta bounce the books here. Bye. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm down on Mason Mount. Like, I don't think he's that good.
So I think Mason Mount's pretty good. I just don't think. I think he's better maybe than you think he is.
For sure.
I just don't think they needed that type of player.
No, I mean,
I guess I think of him more as like a progressive, attacking, like carry the ball midfielder.
Yeah,
and
he's
Fernandez
a leftist midfielder.
Yeah, well,
I'm kidding.
Fernandez is more like can
Yes.
kind of play deeper and pass, but he also progresses the ball. And then I guess you could do that if you have like Casemiro, who's just gonna fucking take people out in the middle.
Think of it this way. I don't think this addresses the top two places Man United needed people. That's what I'll say.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Because I just saw a thing that was like, it was their setup. They're trying to set up now in like the 3-2-2, 3-1 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's too many players. And it was Luke Shaw going into the midfield. Listen. You can't just put anybody there.
No.
Like,
look,
for all of Trent's like problems, the one problem he doesn't have is like midfield attribute.
I will equate it to this. When I was younger, I played MVP baseball, and for the most part, I was so good at that game that I could kind of do whatever I wanted with it. And I really liked Cliff Floyd for some reason. And I was like, I'm going to get Cliff Floyd 70 home runs and play every game and whatever. Brother, it was harder than it sounded. They are playing...
No one knows who
real
Cliff Floyd is.
Sorry, Cliff Floyd, for the ricochet shot there. They are playing real life like a video game, and they're just forcing Luke Shaw to be better than he is, and he's not. Like, he just isn't. They didn't address the top three, actually. I would have gotten a striker first. I would have tried to get a new goalkeeper. I don't know. De Gea, I'm just over it. And I think take your pick in the back four, back three, whatever they do, they need more depth there. And, like, a midfielder, I don't know. If you actually look on paper, it's not the worst setup that they have. Like, it's just spending money to spend money, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, I think the thing is, like, and I might just be setting this midfield up how, like, I would prefer to set a midfield up, which might not be what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think you're going to have to make Mason Mount basically be like a ball winner, like a box-to-box.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think that's what he is.
He's the two that Liverpool got. He's third out of that. I'm trying to think of any other midfielders. I mean, Tonali's going to Newcastle. I think I'd rather have Tonali than Mason Mount. Like, I don't know.
To play devil's advocate, I don't know if you could say Mason Mount is just worse than like Szoboszlai. You could think that. You could be like, I look at these players and I think I would rather have him. But like, so many people have literally like come to the Premier League and just been terrible after being good somewhere else. Like, he could in theory not be very good. And at least Mason Mount has had like a season where he was very, very good in the Prem.
For sure. I this is such a smooth brain take. If my team signs Szoboszlai, I'm looking on YouTube to see highlights and being like, yes, let's fucking roll.
He has some, for sure.
Yes. If we sign Mason Mount, I just think I'm like, oh, okay. Anyway.
Okay, then
next
last
guy.
one.
You only had two?
I only had two, really. Declan Rice and Timber.
And
Kai Havertz, I guess.
Yeah, I've read more people. I was actually a little bit more shocked by this, that people are actually now, after this transfer's gone through, more negative on Declan Rice. I think Declan Rice is a very good player. Like, I think that I don't think Man City needed him. I don't know why we really were in that. It was maybe to just
define need.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was just to make it harder for Arsenal, maybe. But I think that he's a winner. It's hard to be a European winner at a club like West Ham, and he is. And it's hard to be a captain of a team that is like West Ham or at the stature of West Ham, at least on the international stage, and win an international competition, and he did. And I think that he puts in max effort all the time. I think he's a grinder. I think that I definitely would. I'm more excited about that signing than Mason Mount coming to my team. I don't know.
I agree.
I think you're in Timbers a very solid signing too, and I think that's more depth for them. And then, dude, I don't know. Kai Havertz, I have PTSD. Like, he took away the first Champions League from us.
So true.
Yeah.
I think I watched Goldbridge transfer roundup on YouTube because I actually on there. I think most of the time he actually has like pretty just level-headed takes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he'll get a little frisky and you're just sitting there watching. And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
But he kept saying like, everyone knows like Declan Rice is not a 100 million pound player, and he's like, it's not his fault that he's not like that he is, but like everyone knows he's not. It's overpaying. But then he said there's rumors that there's an aspect of his game that has basically been behind closed doors because of what he has to do at West Ham. Like he's basically just CDM, ball winner, basically a center back as well. Like at times that he can't do the progressive stuff as much, but there's people who say like he's crazy. So then I was like, okay, so based on that, is he a 100 million pound player then? It sounds like he is. If he can defend as well as he can, and then he also can progress the ball like that. It sounded to me like it would the fucking best midfielder in the world.
I think that 100 million now is like
who cares? Like
let's stop.
It's
thinking
not my
about the
money.
historical,
like I don't care.
Let's stop thinking about the historical context of what that means. Every year from now on, someone's going to break the signing record. It just is. It's how inflation works. It's how that happens. Like, I don't care about the number really anymore. Now, if Liverpool ends up signing Mbappe for 250, yeah, let's talk about that then. But,
well, and that's the thing. Like, eventually he's going to go somewhere for like $250 million.
Yeah.
So then you're going to be like, okay, 250 is now the top. So then everything is going to adjust to 250 million being like the max price. Right now the max price is like probably like 150 or something.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that was a quick Gold Cup transfer. Next week let's do more in-depth transfer and then give you an update on where the Gold Cup is as well. But Michael, I know you got to go pick up the hounds. Frank and Copper.
My doggies are getting groomed. I got to go pick them up.
Yeah, Frank and Copper are getting their wig busted, so I'll let you go do that. Love it. Welcome back. No joke. That's Dylan's thing. No betting because it's basically just baseball right now. And we'll catch you next week. See ya.
The NAFTA Podcast.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.